Hello, I'm Scott McClelland, and I am a professor in the Departments of Medicine, Epidemiology, and Global Health at the University of Washington. I'm a member of the Division of Allergy and Infectious Disease, and I'll be talking about international tracks for infectious disease fellows. One question that typically comes up with folks applying to the program is when do fellows choose mentors and the projects that they'll be involved with. And this mostly takes place during the first year of fellowship, but it's not too early to be thinking about it during the application process. And indeed, some fellow applicants actually do identify a mentor in a project during the application process, but don't stress if that's not you. It's fine to show up in the program and to find a mentor during the first year. Things that you want to be thinking about, though, are number one, are there people in the program who have mutual interests to yours? You'll want to think about the availability of data and/or project at the time when you're likely to become available to engage in the research. And for most fellows, that's going to be in the second or sometimes even in the third year. That means thinking about your timeline for fellowship and your flexibility as a fellow. It also means taking into account the master's program timelines if you're going to seek a master's degree in public health or an MSc in epidemiology during the course of fellowship. And if you don't have that and you want to be an international researcher long-term, I would highly recommend considering the master's program as a part of the fellowship. Finally, it's important to consider what funding is available for the research and the timelines of that funding, because funding becomes important for funding a part of the fellowship as well as funding the research and the fellow's participation in it. So a typical timeline for fellows is that the first year is, of course, mainly clinical, but there's some things that you need to consider. Number one is you need to find a mentor if you've not already got one. You'll want to have a mentor at the start of the second year to be able to get a jump on the research years because they go fast and you need to make the most of them if you want to transition from that towards a career in academic medicine. There are sometimes proposals or protocols or study instruments that need to be created in the course of that year, and sometimes a decision about whether you want to be engaged in that proposal or for somebody else to take that on and take that on as a project. There are also LRP applications to consider. This is the NIH loan repayment program, and if you're going to be engaged in research and have student loans, it's well worth applying for NIH loan repayment, and you'll want to put in an application during the first year. In the second year, this is frequently a master's year for trainees who are looking at international research, either a master's degree in public health with a focus in epidemiology or an MSc in epidemiology, which is similar but has a few more requirements in terms of epi and biostatistical courses. Some trainees transition directly to fieldwork in that second year. And then in the third and fourth year, there's additional fieldwork analyses, manuscript writing, and preparation of grants if you're planning to try to make a continuation in academics. In particular, a lot of people are writing in a third or sometimes a fourth year as a fellow for an NIH case series grant, which is a mentored clinical investigator training grant, or for a similar grant through organizations like our Center for AIDS Research. There are several entities or research groups that work internationally at the University of Washington. Many of these are within the Department of Global Health. I will actually go through each of the groups that are on this page in the next several slides. So the University of Washington Department of Global Health was established in 2007 with funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and from the state of Washington. And the department is in both the School of Medicine and the School of Public Health. Focus areas of DGH include training, infectious diseases, and implementation science. It has one of the strongest implementation science programs in the country and the first implementation science PhD program in the country. So if that's an interest, it's a great place to get some of those skills. The Department of Global Health website has this interactive map, which is searchable by country or program or research focus area or health topic, and illustrates what projects from the Department of Global Health are going on in what areas of the world. A couple of main highlights from this map are that there are major areas of focus in Latin America, particularly in Peru and in Brazil, in Eastern and Southern Africa, as well as in India. The Kenya Research and Training Center is one of the centers within the Department of Global Health, and it's one that I co-direct. This is a mature collaboration. The first memorandum of understanding between the University of Washington and the University of Nairobi was established in 1985. And this collaboration has supported both US and Kenyan trainees in HIV and STI research. And in the past 10 to 15 years, that has expanded considerably into other areas, including TB, diarrheal disease, hepatitis, maternal and child health, reproductive health, and non-communicable diseases. Collaborating institutions include the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center here in Seattle, and then the University of Nairobi, Kenyatta Hospital, the Kenya Medical Research Institute, the Kenyan Ministry of Health, and the National AIDS and STD Control Program in Kenya. And the website for the Kenya Research and Training Center is shown here. KRTC research sites span the geography from the west coast of Kenya on Lake Victoria through the central region, with many projects in and around Nairobi, and to the Indian Ocean coast in Mombasa and Kilifi. The research site that I lead is called the Pwani Research Center and is located in Mombasa and is engaged in sponsored clinical trials as well as translational research and implementation research. To give a sense of the types of research a little bit more specifically, current clinical trials include a Sanofi COVID vaccine trial, a Gates Medical Research Institute supported tuberculosis vaccine trial, and an NIH supported trial of short course versus longer course doxycycline treatment for chlamydia. Translational studies in Mombasa particularly focus on our work with the Mombasa cohort, which is a long-term open cohort study of HIV negative as well as HIV positive women who are engaged in sex work. And one of the major focuses of translational research in that cohort has been the relationship between vaginal health and women's susceptibility to HIV, sexually transmitted infections, and other adverse reproductive health outcomes like infertility and preterm birth. Finally, the implementation research in Mombasa has focused on using implementation strategies to improve delivery of evidence-based interventions for HIV treatment and prevention, as well as for improved delivery of cervical cancer screening and improved outcomes in maternal health. There are 7 faculty in the KRTC who are also members of the Division of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. We also have strong Kenyan partners in leadership, and typically fellows in the KRTC are co-mentored by one of the AID faculty and one of our Kenyan colleagues. Another center within the Department of Global Health is the International Clinical Research Center, which was established in 2007 to streamline implementation of multi-center international infectious disease prevention trials. The areas of focus have expanded somewhat. Clinical trials conducted by the ICRC include the Partners PrEP trial, The ECHO trial, which tested different methods of contraception to see whether there were variations in women's risk of acquiring HIV, and the recent KENSHI trial of single-dose HPV vaccination in women who had aged out of the regular vaccination schedule, and that showed that single dose was quite effective at preventing HPV infection. The ICRC also conducts implementation research, including PrEP demonstration projects and community ART delivery, and has a biorepository from its studies of HIV serodiscordant couples, and their website is shown here. There are several faculty members in the ICRC who are also members of the Division of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. The founding director is Connie Kellum. Other faculty members who are mentors to our fellows include Kenneth Muganya, Jay Lingapa, and Paul Drain. We have a global oncology program, and the ID division is actually very closely involved with the global oncology program because it was initially developed to conduct research on infection-related malignancies as well as HIV infections among cancer patients in Uganda. And this is a collaboration between the Uganda Cancer Institute and the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center that was established in 2004. Warren Phipps, pictured here, is one of the directors of that program. He's an associate professor in the Division of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and is based in Kampala. The program on education and research in Latin America is one of the ID division's major links to research in Latin America. It's led by Joe Zunt, who is a neuroinfectious diseases specialist. It was formed in 2012 to encourage multidisciplinary research, training, and implementation activities in Latin America, has a strong focus in Peru, and has a strong focus on HIV, sexually transmitted infections, and neuroinfectious diseases. CTRAC, or the Seattle TB Research Advancement Center, was established in 2017, so one of the newer centers in the Department of Global Health, and its goals are to promote tuberculosis research as well as training. And several of the faculty members in the Division of Allergy and Infectious Diseases are members of the CTRAC faculty, and this is a great place to get involved with tuberculosis research. Many of their research sites are in Kenya and in South Africa. Finally, the UW-Senegal collaboration is led by Professor Jeff Gottlieb in the Division of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and other faculty members associated with that include Noel Benzakri, who's also a faculty member in AID, and Steve Hawes, who is a professor of epidemiology at the University of Washington. This collaboration was established in the 1990s and has research sites both in Dakar and in Casamance. And their research includes research into antiretroviral therapy for HIV-2, in which Professor Gottlieb is one of the global leaders in that unique area, HIV and PrEP, HIV and HPV, and HIV and food insecurity and malnutrition. I also want to touch briefly on the Global Health Fellows Program, which is a source of possible funding for fellows, particularly in the out years. And this is an NIH-sponsored 12-month clinical research training program for postdoctoral trainees and doctoral students in the health professions. And a number of our fellows have funded a year of their fellowship by applying to and successfully receiving grants from this fellowship program, which is called the Northern Pacific Global Health Fellows Program. And as you can see, it includes a number of institutions across the northern United States, as well as the University of Washington. So in closing, if you have questions, there's a lot of information available on the websites that I've provided. You should feel free to reach out to individual mentors for specifics about their research projects and what projects may be available for fellows, particularly with a focus on what might be available in 2 years or so when you would be ready to start your research. And finally, feel free to contact me or to contact the program directors if you have questions about the international track for ID fellows.